Today, an FDA approval in melanoma, breakthrough therapy designations in colorectal cancer and a rare disease, and published findings in prostate cancer. Hello and welcome to OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. The FDA expanded the approval of Ipilimumab to include adjuvant treatment of patients with stage 3 melanoma with pathologic involvement of regional lymph nodes greater than 1 millimeter who have undergone complete resection, including total lymphadenectomy. The approval was based on results from the Phase 3 EORTC 18071 trial, in which adjuvant ipilimumab at a 10 milligram per kilogram dose reduced the risk of recurrence by 25% versus placebo. In the study, the median recurrence-free survival was 26.1 versus 17.1 months with ipilimumab and placebo, respectively. The 3-year RFS rate was 46.5% in the ipilimumab arm compared with 34.8% in the placebo group. The recent approval was at this 10 milligram per kilogram dose. The initial approval for advanced melanoma was for a dose of 3 milligrams per kilogram. The FDA included a boxed warning with the label for adjuvant ipilimumab due to the potential for severe and fatal immune-mediated adverse events. The FDA granted a breakthrough therapy designation to pembrolizumab as a potential therapy for patients with microsatellite instability high metastatic colorectal cancer. The designation was based on findings from an ongoing Phase 2 study which demonstrated high response rates with pembrolizumab in patients with heavily pretreated CRC with mismatch repair deficiency, a condition that causes MSI. In the findings from the study presented at ASCO, the objective response rate was 62% with pembrolizumab in MMR deficient metastatic colorectal cancer compared with 0% in patients with MMR proficient tumors. Median progression-free survival and overall survival were not reached, with many patients responding to treatment for longer than 12 months in the MMR deficient arm. These latest findings with the MSI status were discussed during a recent interview with Dr. Tanios Saab from the Ohio State University.
Coming to understand a little bit more the biology, the immunology of MSI tumors versus MSS tumors, the study from Hopkins and multiple other institutions, including Ohio State, looked at both colorectal and non-colorectal tumors with MSI positive, and with the colorectal group, they had an MSS cohort. And it was pretty astounding to see the responses that were happening in those patients. A lot of patients with responses, and the responses were pretty dramatic, not only just in terms of depth, but in terms of duration. So those responses would happen, they were deep, and they would go for a long time. And they only happen in the MSI positive tumors in the colorectal cohort, none in the microsatellite stable.
The FDA granted a breakthrough therapy designation to pexidartinib as a potential therapy for patients with tenosynovial giant cell tumor for which surgical removal is contraindicated. Pexidartinib is an oral small molecule inhibitor of the CSF1 receptor and KIT kinases, which regulate key components of the tumor and its microenvironment. The designation was based on findings from a Phase 1 study which were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. In an expansion cohort of the study, the objective response rate with the drug was 52.2%. Additionally, 30.4% of patients treated with the drug had stable disease, for a disease control rate of 83%. There are currently no FDA-approved therapies specifically for TGCT. Dr. Mahmoud Ghazi, Executive Vice President and Global Head of Development for Daiichi Sankyo, said in a statement, "We are pleased that the FDA recognizes the unmet need for the treatment of TGCT, and we look forward to working closely with the agency on the expedited development of this potential non-surgical treatment for patients with TGCT." Findings from the Phase 2 two-part trial exploring olaparib in prostate cancer were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Results were initially presented earlier in the year at the 2015 AACR annual meeting. In the study, olaparib showed an overall response rate of nearly 90% in a biomarker-defined subgroup of patients with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer who had DNA repair defects. Using next-generation sequencing, the researchers discovered that 16 of 49 patients had homozygous deletions, deleterious mutations, or both in the DNA repair genes. These patients were considered biomarker positive. Researchers found stark differences in the anti-tumor activity of olaparib in the biomarker negative and biomarker positive patients. Radiologic progression-free survival was 9.8 months in the biomarker positive group versus 2.7 months in the biomarker negative group. Overall survival was also prolonged in the biomarker positive group with a median overall survival of 13.8 months compared with 7.5 months in the biomarker negative group. And that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for watching Onc Live News Network. I'm Laura Jones. We'll see you next time.